puts on, we've been working with him putting on growth shops here in southern Alberta, and he's been traveling all over Western Canada with it. And so we want to give him the credit for that. And it's all stuff that we've done before and worked with before, but we're going to lay out these 6 principles today. We also going to have our conscious toolbox. And if we have a weekly challenge, I'll leave that up to Lisa. All right, what else have we got on the show today?
Okay, of course we have our conscious question of the day, and it's a good one. You're going to really enjoy this one because it comes up all the time. And then we always get questions from our clients and patients that are in at the clinic, and if anybody would like to call in, it's the numbers on the screen. So, yeah, we're going to get started.
Okay, so our first conscious principle leading towards a growth mindset is recognition, or can be called awareness as well. So recognizing that having self-awareness, knowing really what's going on inside you, where places you can look is usually it starts with looking at your childhood, and often, and because we've all come into where we're at in our life now, and our relationships that we're in, and the jobs that we're in, we all carry in this. There's past pain. We've had different people that have different life lessons. We've also had different challenges, and we have to recognize, like, what are our challenges? What are the lessons we have and haven't learned? What past pain? What kind of garbage are we carrying around from our past, from our childhood? And becoming aware of these things. So, again, looking at the childhood. Another place to look is looking at self-talk. You know, when you think about the thoughts in your own head and the self-talk, you know, how much of it's positive, how much of it's negative, what are the things you tell yourself, right? And there are places to look and places that you can learn and grow. Recognizing, too, that we all have these defaults of emotions and behavior. And, again, we've talked about that before when we've talked about, triggers and things like that, and how when you actually uncover these default patterns that we drop into, especially when we're stressed or we're angered or we're, again, getting triggered, and instead of going into these default emotions, like it's having awareness around what these defaults are and what your behaviors are, and then you can actually make conscious choices to do things differently, not get overly emotional, to stay grounded, and to behave in a way where we've talked again about responding instead of reacting. So all this self-awareness allows you to move from this place of reacting to where you actually can make these conscious choices and actually respond in a more appropriate way.
And then the second one that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to add to that, like, give some real life experience of like when we partner up and want to share our lives together, we have to be aware of how you were parented, how I was parented, all the values and the things that I learned from my society and my family and school and my peers. We're coming together with these 2 completely different lives, and we're going to
different life lessons, different childhood experience, exactly.
Yeah. And it could be all about even how did you parent your kids? Because we just did a parenting issue last week, you'll usually parent the way you were parented unless you've learned how to do it differently. And if you choose to change the pattern of what happened in your own life. So that's what comes up for me when you say that. You just become aware
for sure.
of what that's all about.
And another example of that is like I was kind of the tough guy, and when it came to parenting my kids, I was the hard ass because I felt the other adults around were being a little too soft in a lot of cases. And then you were the same. You felt the other way. You felt, your husband who was kind of the hard ass, and so you often were the softie, right?
Yeah.
And so we had that 2 different experiences of parenting our children
and we know
when they
that
were younger.
Doesn't work.
No.
Yeah. No. But it's being aware of it instead of me criticizing you for being tough and you
criticizing you for
being soft, right?
Yeah.
We say, how do we unite and do this in a true way that's going to support children and support our family and support our kids.
And so once again, triggers are a great place to give you clues and where there's things you can uncover, basically from your childhood or your past past traumas, and also look at your judgments. Judgments are another place where you're having judgments, either self-judgment, where you're calling yourself down, and especially that self-talk in your head, or when you're judging the people around you. You can look at that and see if there's any clues to where those judgments come from, and that awareness can be helpful.
It's
Key to growing emotionally.
So the second one we've got is authenticity. You are the only one left with you at the end of the day. And I'm going to add, like, even in the world that of women, like, we've got lots of TV personalities and book authors that say, just be authentically you and be fearless. But what is that really? Like, sometimes it gets a little cliche, like, yeah, I'm just going to go and be authentic. But do I know what that really means? And what does it mean? And I'm a perfect one to address this one because I'm going to admit, like, 100% that I'm a converted pleaser. So being authentic when you're a pleaser is so far from honoring yourself. I would say, so many times I'm saying yes to everybody else. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I'm okay with that. Yes, 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 yes. But really, I'm aware, that I have to check in with myself. Is this authentic and real for me? If I'm saying yes to me and yes to you, it's a win. But if my yes to you means a no for me, but I still do it, then it's not authentic. Then I'm not honoring myself. And then in that moment, I'm going to become bitter, or I'm going to start resenting, my choice, or blame you for making me do it when it was completely my choice, right? So being authentic, it's so important to check in. And when I work with people, I say, well, if you're saying yes, you have to check in. Does that mean if I say yes to you, is it a yes for me as well? Because it doesn't mean to say we swing from saying yes all the time to say, forget it, I'm not going to do anything for anybody. Then you've really swung over to the other side. And you're not authentic there either.
That's just it. If you're saying that I've been doing this for so long that I'm now going to switch, and it's going to be some form of a rebel, right, to saying that I'm done with this, so I'm going to become this. But if you're still this far off center with this place of rebellion, that's not going to make you happy or the people around you happy either. It's going to be it's really just the opposite side of the same coin.
Right. And it's either side doesn't serve you. But and we talk about this all the time with our clients, is like a wrecking ball. So if the wrecking ball, it's meant when you're authentic and you're true to yourself, just hangs from the line. But when you're a pleaser, it's going to swing way over to one side. And when you're sick of doing that, it's going to swing way over and you're going to be a rebel. So then the wrecking ball does damage on both sides. So nobody wins, especially me, because I am doing it. It's my choice. Unconsciously, I'm doing it for a lot of reasons, but when I can get authentic about it and know what is the truth and be real and recognize, why am I doing that? Why am I pleasing instead of being authentic? Then I've got growth. There's growth, and I can move forward. And
we all know people, if not seeing it in ourselves, but or you might see it in other people, where, just like she said, people are like either nice, or a certain way 90% of the time, but every once in a while they swing over and they either go into a rage, or they just completely withdraw, or whatever their pattern is, or they go into attack mode. And again, neither one of those is authentic, and it's because one's not authentic, you get kind of thrown in the opposite direction. So it's always finding that way back to center.
And I'm going to add to that too, because I have a lot of life experience there. And I've done a lot of work around that. Almost daily, I have to remind myself, to be authentic and be myself. And what we've come to know is, when I was a pleaser, I thought that's what my partner wanted from me. They wanted me just to say yes and always try and make them happy. But it's not. I'm not actually giving my best self to my partner when I'm doing that, because they don't really know who I am or what I want or what the desires of my heart are.
Mm-hmm.
They're only, taking and taking. And I mean, it'll happen, but there's breakdown in the relationship because
certainly.
I'm suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not even getting me. You're not getting
No.
the best of me.
No, exactly. And it can lead to resentment. It can just lead to shallowness. It's not a healthy place to be in a relationship.
Yeah, so, on this part, it's just getting true with yourself and being fearless about
Mm-hmm.
what's authentically right for your own soul, for your life, and for the direction you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really scary in a relationship when you haven't put it on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be like a conversation that you have with your partner or people at work. And I had to do that in my workplace too, right? And say, I haven't really served you because I wasn't serving me.
And
now I have to find a balance.
And some people might be a bigger pleaser at work than they are at home, right?
I think
depending on
we go into different roles
Yeah.
with our best girlfriends or our good friends, then with our partners, and then our children, and then in our families and at work. Like it's all different. So we have to really check in and
Yeah.
be really aware of the role that we're playing and if it's real for us or not.
Mm-hmm. And one of the exercises that we often do with clients, or even in some of our workshops, is in order to get some awareness and also finding how to be more authentic is the shoulds and coulds, and it's looking at where in your life are you telling yourself I should do this, I should do that, or where in your life are other people telling you you should do this and you should do that, and then you can go back and say, look at it and say, if you change the should to a could, you can say, I could do that instead of I should do that. And then there's no guilt attached to it, and then you get to make a choice and say, is this something I value? Is this something I actually want to make a priority? Is this something that I do actually want to do? Or is it coming from some past place that really doesn't serve me or isn't really part of my values system now? And so again, it's all about awareness and
it changes really fast. Like even when we talk to somebody, I say, well, you should look after your health. But then if I said, could you look after your health? Like,
then you say, well,
the energy around both those statements,
Yeah.
right? It's how you feel about it. Because when you
Very much
use
so.
a should, somebody's wrong or you're wrong. But when there's a could, then there's a choice.
Exactly.
So I'm just trying to get us
On getting our Facebook feed going.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, the third consciousness principle is transparency. And so this one's all about communication. Communication in relationships, very, very important. Because you want to talk about the important things that really matter to you and to your partner and in your relationship. So you need to be able to discuss things openly. And you need to do it honestly and without any hidden agendas or motives. And that takes practice, right? And it takes commitment for both people in the relationship for sure. Because one of the big things is fear of repercussions is why people often won't be transparent, right? So you're always, whether you're walking on eggshells or there's certain topics that you just avoid or you tippy-toe around, it's like, let's not talk about money or let's not talk about parenting issues or whatever it might be. So you really got to say, let's set some ground rules is a big one. And one of the things we coach our clients on is some of the ground rules you need to have is that you will not, if you're having an open conversation where you're allowed to be open and honest, that you make a commitment that you will not attack somebody for what they're saying or what they're sharing, and you will not actually withdraw from them as well. So you're going to stay in this grounded, centered place, and you're going to be able to do your best to have a mature conversation around it and share your feelings and how it makes you feel, that kind of thing. So again, honesty, very important, and the more honest you can get with yourself, and then the more honest you can be with your partner or whoever you're working with, whether it's an employer or a coworker or your partner. Another thing when you're doing this transparency and for good communication is to be using I feel statements.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying that made me angry, you
Or
can
you
say,
made
or
me
you made me angry.
Mm-hmm.
What you would say is, when you did that, or when that happened, I felt angry and hurt, or whatever it might be. And really look at your own feelings around the situation, and then you can own those feelings, and then own where that came from. And not make it about what the other person did, but make it about what did you feel when whatever was said or whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. So these I feel statements are very, very important, because then you don't feel attacked, because if she says, you made me angry, or gosh, I was so mad when you did that, or if you just say, God, when you did that, I felt this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I wonder why that would make you feel that way, because that wasn't my intention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this conversation can start about it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's all about being more aware of how those things make you feel and how they make me feel. So lots of places to learn and grow there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you were saying we have a couples commitment. It's almost like a little a commitment that you sign. We have you go through it. It says exactly how you manage your conversations and the big topics. And our couples really like it, because then they have safety when they want to bring up a tough thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows them to get transparent about exactly
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. Because if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to move forward, and you're just going to become stuck, and you'll just feel like you're roommates, that you're not even
Yep.
partners in the relationship anymore.
And again, it takes practice. It's not something you're just going to all of a sudden make these commitments and all of a sudden have this amazingly open, honest conversation around things that you've never talked about or had an open, honest discussion about before. It's going to be, I'll be a little bit vulnerable. No, there's no attack, no withdrawal. Great. Now you'll be allowed to be a little bit more vulnerable, and we keep kind of supporting each other to each going to a deeper level of again, honesty and transparency and vulnerability. It's the other piece to that, right?
And it does take practice, because a lot of people that we work with will say, well, now that you shared that, I am quite triggered by it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to handle it, because I'm not allowed. I've committed not to withdraw or attack or stonewall you or,
Mm-hmm.
Not speak to you for 2 days.
Yeah.
So what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So that leads right into responsibility. Right?
Yeah.
Is going, okay, I'm feeling this way, and I'm feeling hurt, and I'm feeling triggered. So, and we talk about this all the time, it's time to stop, drop into your heart, take a deep breath, and go, all right, if I'm triggered, it's not about the experience or the person in front of me or what's happened, it's something inside me.
Mm-hmm.
Like we even talked about in our kids program last week. The triggers are inside you. Your child didn't put them there. The person in front of you didn't put them there. It comes from a past experience. It's
Mm-hmm.
only being triggered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming up. And when you're triggered, it's your opportunity to take responsibility for it. And I'm sure Dawn would support me in this one. If I'm triggered, I'll say, oh, I was really triggered by that. And you know what? It's mine. It's not about you. And that's the first thing I say, because then I've said it, I've actually opened the door to take responsibility, and I've taken him off the hook. What he did triggered me, but it's not his responsibility. It's mine to look at and figure out my feelings around it and where did they come from. So we've got a really good quote here from Theodore Roosevelt. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your troubles, you wouldn't sit down for a month. And that came right off the website. So, but I love it because, I mean, this knowledge is not new. Like, this was information that obviously that generation knew about too. Right? So it's really taking responsibility for that. And sometimes, even when I say that, this is mine, I'm taking responsibility for it. But it might take me a few minutes to figure it out.
That's a good point. Sometimes, again, when something's brought up and you are getting triggered or getting emotional charge around it, sure, you're not going to attack or withdraw, but at the same time, you have to say, you know what, I need some time to think about this so I know what I'm feeling around it. And then you allow your partner to have that short bit of time, but say, you know what, let's get back to it, and set a time or a place where you're going to get back to it and continue the conversation so that you know that it's, you're not just going to let it get swept under the carpet and wait for another opportunity to get triggered again. It's best to move forward.
Well, and then it's my opportunity to say, if I start dealing with this right now, I'm going to react. I'm not going to respond in a kind and generous way. I'm going to react, and the reaction will come from my pain, right, and from my disappointment or from past experience. Right? It bubbles up.
And again, if somebody's sharing something that's maybe, again, being vulnerable and it ends up being a little bit triggering to the other person, maybe you might want to say, well, can you tell me more about that so I can understand it better? And then allow the other person to, go into a little more depth, a little more of what's really going on inside their heart or inside their head around that. And you might have a better understanding, and that helps you get over the part that's triggering you as well.
Right. And the point that we want to make here too is we all go through tough stuff. We all get triggered. No matter how much you take responsibility for everything, you're going to get triggered in life. That's a part of our human experience here. And so it's best to learn how to manage it so that you can actually move through it really easily. And I mean, Dawn and I didn't learn to do this right away in our relationship. We had to work at it. Yeah, we had to work at it.
And you don't just start with number one and do number one and say, I've now got all my awareness. Now I'm going to move into number two, and then move into number four. You recognize you're going to be going through this circle of 6 things over and over again as you go through and become more responsible or get your awareness, and then moving through all these stages, you're going to go back to the awareness stage again and work your way all the way through again as things come up piece by piece. So it's again, the growth mindset means that you never stop growing, that you continually keep taking whatever step you're at from this 1 to 6 and keep working through them.
Well, and the point I want to make on this one too is, and I've said it many times, Don's job isn't to make my life happy, and mine isn't to make his happy, right? My life is my responsibility, and mine alone. Do we come together and have a great time and enjoy and make each other happy? Yeah. But we also come into this relationship to heal some of the emotional pain from our past experiences. And that's the purpose of it. Everything that comes up in our life is serving that same purpose. It can bring you tons of joy, and then you get triggered because there's things to face that you haven't faced. Because nobody got through a childhood without a disappointment or a lesson or some kind of loss of some kind. So we've all gone through the tough stuff, and we always will. And if you're willing to take responsibility, you will start to enjoy. Like if I'm triggered in the moment and I'm feeling something's coming up for me, I go, wow, like we now have a level of safety and love that we can face this. And I know I'm going to get through it. In the moment, it feels very uncomfortable and unsettling, and I don't like it. But I know if I look after it in a responsible way, I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to get through it fast. And then there's so much freedom on the other side. Because if I don't do that, I'm just stuffing it back into my unconscious for it to add to everything that's there so that it can just bubble up another time, and it's going to come with a fury because I haven't dealt with it. So I kind of get excited when it's happening. I don't like the feeling, but that's only because the feeling's coming up from a past experience ready to be released. And I go, oh, I get to let something go. So I'm excited to do that. Yeah,
we get excited for the freedom that's beyond.
Yes.
All right. So number 5 is consistency. So if we continue building on number 1 was awareness, number 2 was authenticity, number 3, what was 3? transparency. And then 4, responsibility. We take it one step further. Number 5 is consistency. All right. So if we need to act consistently in harmony with who you really are, and again, so who you really are, well, that's what you've learned from the awareness that you've been working on, as you've been building up awareness about yourself, about your childhood, about the things that trigger you. You decided that you're going to be authentic once you start knowing who you are, what your values really are. And so now when you need to start acting, not only consistently as in on a daily basis, being consistent with how you're acting and talking to yourself and that kind of stuff, but being consistent again with who you really are and what your values are, and what your goals are, and your aspirations. So you got to be consistent with who you are on the inside, as well as also being consistent in a practical way on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. And it's jumping into my mind with this one, because we deal with a lot of people that go, well, people often get mixed up with, and Don's talking about consistency, and that means, like, I feel like we're consistent, like, our stuff comes up, but we have really safe ground rules and ways to get through it. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like there's anything we couldn't face. Mm-hmm. But the consistency has to be there, because there's sometimes if I'm triggered and I'll say, well, and my ego's going to say, oh, but this time's different. This is a whopper, right? Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to be mad about this, and you've made me mad, and this time, like, it's different. Mm-hmm. But that's breaking the consistency, right? If I come to a place where I'm triggered and it feels big, mm-hmm. then that only means there's something big to release. Mm-hmm, exactly. If people get caught up in it, no, I need to feel these feelings. I have the right to be mad, mm-hmm. right? And that's not consistency. No, it's, you've taken a really good theory on how to manage your emotions, which we believe in. You have to feel your emotions, and you've got to work your way through it. Mad isn't an emotion. Mad is, especially, like, when you're angry at another person, right? Yeah, it's the cover up for what's underneath, mm-hmm. right? It's but if we get stuck in the mad and just say, well, I'm mad here, and don't tell me not to be mad, because mm-hmm. I'm supposed to feel my feelings. So you've almost taken the information that we teach people and use it as a weapon. Mm-hmm. It's like a weapon. Yep. But that's not being consistent, because every single thing that comes up, every experience, person, job, child, anything that triggers you is there for your own growth. And if you vow to being consistent about how you deal with it, mm-hmm. you provide safety for everyone in your environment. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't follow that rule with you, then you have no safety with mm-hmm. me, right? You will be like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do this time. Yeah. And let's be real, most people that come to us and say, I just don't know what to do anymore. Mm-hmm. I've tried everything. I have nothing left in my toolkit. Mm-hmm. And then so we can go through these 6 principles, right? Are you aware? Mm-hmm. Do you have the growth mindset? Are you taking responsibility? Are you consistent? Mm-hmm. Right? And they're going to say no. And we'll say, okay, let's back it up and find out mm-hmm. which step you're missing out on. And we don't do it so rigid. We really don't. Because we can get to it really, really quick. Because mm-hmm. it's really easy for us to do. Yeah, and we coach people through the first few situations, and then we're like, okay, now when you're home, you get to practice, and it's practice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All these principles. And we do say too, if you're stuck in a situation and you're stonewalled and you don't know what to do, and you're too afraid to bring it up, mm-hmm. right, and get real and vulnerable about it, then write it down. Write down everything that happened, everything that you felt, the situation in full, and then you come in and see us, and we go through it again, and we can get to the root of it super, super fast, right? Mm-hmm. And then once we show you how to do that, and you learn every step.
And how to do it safely and without without the attack and withdraw. Then you get.
And people say that to us now all the time. It's just like everything shifted because now I know I've got the tools to get through it. Because let's face it, most people call it quits when they say, "There's nothing left for me to do.
Yeah.
I got nothing."
And you're not able to have these big conversations anymore. It's nowhere to go with it, right?
No, and the pain is so big and so ugly that you're so afraid to have a look at it.
So I'll just add to this as well. It is helpful, again, being consistent is, again, the two parts of consistency is being consistent with who you are on the inside, where you're at, your heart, your soul, what your desires are, what your values are, and acting consistently with that so that you're not feeling like you're off balance because, part of you is believing this, but you're actually living this. You want to bring that together. But it's things like setting daily intentions on a more practical level, so that either a daily or a weekly intention saying, here's kind of my goals for the day or for the week, and how I plan on dealing honestly with what's going on in my life and what do I want and what do I want. Yeah. So what direction are you wanting to be moving forward in? And having some routine is also really good too. Okay, some sort of a daily routine is very helpful. So again, whether it's with diet and exercise and meditation and healthy food choices, and whether it's yoga or whatever you do to stay active and for your body and your mind. But also be open to when new opportunities come, and be open to change too. Don't get into a routine and say, I can't let anything change my routine because this is my safe place. Recognize that when you start doing this growth work and start working on these principles, you're going to see opportunities coming forward to you, and you want to be open to those things and say, wow, this is a chance to do something new and exciting, and I'm open to change, and I'm willing to try something new and something different. Right. And if it doesn't turn out to be something that's worked great, then you get to make another choice, right? So don't ever feel like you get stuck in anything that you choose or try. It's all about being open to change and open to opportunities.
And I think too, people sometimes will say, well, I don't like yoga, or I don't know how to meditate, or it's like going for a walk is meditation. Washing the dishes for some people is meditation, right?
And there's dozens of different kinds of yoga, so unless you've tried several, you really don't know. And lots of things like that. There's so many opportunities to do different things. Meditation, there's 1,000 different ways to meditate, right? So just find what works for you.
And it doesn't have to be long. Like even our morning routine, it doesn't take us a long time, but we're committed to it.
Yeah, we're committed, and because we're kind of focused on it, we can, again, it doesn't have to be a long time.
But we do it, even if the meditation's only 8 minutes long. Yeah, we start there.
Yeah.
But it gets us grounded and connected to ourselves. And
we do set daily intentions.
And that growth mindset. Say, hey, I'm willing to look at this day with an open mind and an open heart and learn what I need to do and bring joy and love. And, your intention might be, I'm going to make everybody that I come in contact with today a little happier by something that I choose to do. And then so you've set that intention, and then it becomes kind of fun.
For sure, yeah. And being willing to, if anything comes up for yourself, you're always willing to say, I'm going to look at that and feel what I need to feel and see what I can learn about myself today.
And I had a client in the clinic today that said, and she was commenting about the drama at work, and she said, for the first time in my life, I said, what am I doing that's creating this drama? Instead of, you're dramatic, they're acting dramatic, she's like, I stopped and said, what am I doing to contribute to this? Or, if this is showing up in my world, it's in me too. Yeah, and then I'm like, awesome. It was like an aha moment. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So number 6 then is acceptance. So acceptance, of course, of yourself first, and then other people, and accepting that everything in your life is there to teach you what you need to learn, or it's there to support your life, and accepting it. And accepting other people, and knowing how different we are, and we live in such a multicultural society where children don't come into this world with any ideas of hatred or racism or hating their bodies. Like, human babies come in with pure love, right? And they love their poop even. Like, they don't know it's stinky or bad, right? It's everything that we learn in this lifetime is a learned behavior. We learn it from our society, our families, our churches, our peers, our jobs, so acceptance of everyone on this planet for the differences that we bring, and then compassion for the people who've learned it a different way. Like, there's somebody who's blatantly racist did not learn that from his own experience. He learned it from something that he's been taught.
Outside
he
himself,
didn't decide, I'm just not going to like that type of person or that color of skin or big people or people from another culture. It's a learned behavior. And when you accept that it's not that person's fault, they've learned it, and if I judge them for judging, I'm just as bad.
You're a judger as well.
I'm a judger too, right? And so I choose to be compassionate, and I think, wow, what has happened to that person to have that response to their world, to be so judgmental, or what kind of pain have they gone through that they would look at other people and look at their differences and judge them.
Well, and sometimes that kind of pain will come from generations back, yet it still gets carried on through the family, because that just becomes the family values and family beliefs, and it just gets passed on. And to the point where, you might have these beliefs and you think, I don't even know where that came from. No idea why I'd even think that, but that's what I would learn.
Right.
And again, that's more of that self-awareness, but having that awareness and saying, is this actually one of my values? Is this consistent with who I am and the day I'm in, where I'm, the society I'm living in? Or is this something that goes back to a different time where, there was things that were done that weren't nice, or, this place of making people had made choices of what someone was right and somebody was wrong?
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. So it's getting away from that somebody's right and somebody's wrong, and that you can judge it that way. It's recognizing that everybody comes from a different experience, and so everybody's right for where they've been and what they've experienced.
And let's be clear, like, we're from a pretty entitled society. I mean, you and I, right?
Certainly.
I don't know what it feels like to grow up on a reservation or go to a residential school, or there's lots of experiences I haven't had.
Oh, we've got people, coming to Canada now that, have been through wars, right? And famines and all kinds of terrible, terrible things. So then they're here, living and working amongst us now, and we have no idea the traumas that they've seen. So, but some of the stories you hear are just horrifying.
Oh yeah, and it takes me right back to my piece about authenticity, right? And I'm gonna add to this because I like, even today I was part of a Big Brothers Big Sisters Go Girls group, and it's a fantastic group within the schools that organization does, and it is a multicultural melting pot of young ladies and boys that come together, and they don't come together as friends. They are all in this program that the Big Brothers and Big Sisters do, and it's fascinating to see them interacting, and they all have different cultures and different colors of skin and different ways to pray over their food or traditions, and they're celebrated there. Like, maybe sometimes for the first time, how did they do things? And that program provides the safety and the space for these groups to talk about it. And what it does is it provides the opportunity for everyone to see everyone's differences and accept them, celebrate them, and know the truth about it, rather than saying, well, I don't like the way they wear their hair, so I'm going to judge them that it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just simple as it's different, so I'm going to judge it as right, as opposed to getting an opportunity to actually understand it and experience it.
Right,
And,
or tell me why the men in your culture wear turbans. Right, that comes up, right? I rather like.
Yeah, these kids are asking those questions.
They're
right?
asking the questions.
Yeah,
of, you know, why do you never wear pants? You know, why do you always wear a dress? Or, you know, it's just so fascinating to have a safe place for those conversations to happen. Because if we're trying to teach a growth mindset, it's got to start with the young people. And it's got to start in the places where it's safe, and a safe place where people can ask the questions. And the questions are asked, and the opportunity's there for being authentic. And the people can share. And then when someone shares a little bit of their culture that, you know, maybe they're a minority within their school or their community, and somebody says, I want to know about it, you should see how they shine. They just light up, and then they start speaking maybe in their language, and then the other students come around and say, well, teach me how to say that, you know. And then when I see you in the hall, I'll say it in your language.
Yeah, I'll say hi in your language,
yeah,
in my
and
language.
that was up today, and it was really neat. So it was so neat to see the differences celebrated and watch what we normally like these quiet personalities who almost feel embarrassed about some of the things about their culture being, you could just see their hearts open up, and they're just like sharing and happy and just so honored.
You want to be proud of their culture and their heritage. Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful experience to see, like 14, it was with a group of girls, go, we're all girls. That's what we have in common. Like, and let's celebrate that. So it was beautiful. And it does give us, and what that comes to is we even talk about bullying in that program is, and going back to authentic, like authentically, intrinsically we're not bulliers, we're not judgers, we're not haters, right? And if we can stand in our truth, and if we teach the young people, if our true north is love, and acceptance and compassion and understanding, and knowing we're all humans here to have a beautiful life full of joy and an experience that has purpose and fulfillment. And if we teach our children that, then who cares if you wear a turban or braids or pants or you eat different food than me? Like, if we teach them to be authentic, the bullying wouldn't happen, right? Because we are celebrating our differences.
And we could do a whole show on bullying.
Yes.
And we probably will one day.
Right.
There's lots to talk about around that one,
But then I think there's 14 girls going out in that school with more understanding and love for everybody.
Exactly.
So it's an honor to be a part of that team. All right. Well, we can talk about our weekly challenge, I think. And
Yep.
okay.
Do you want to go ahead with that?
Well, the challenge and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to let Dawn add to it. And I've said it before, I'm a recovered pleaser, and I only talk about that part of my life because I've learned so much from it. And I work with so many people that are pleasers that I can show them the way through to an authentic life without being in that place of suffering, of always trying to please everybody else. So our weekly challenge is when, and Don will, I'm sure, jump in and share, because it happens all the time. When I get stressed or overwhelmed, or I'm not grounded and I'm not saying, okay, what's right for me today, I'll slip into that role, right? Because I did it for so many years. It's an easy place for me to go. And so I'm going to get clear on the pleaser. The pleaser will just keep the peace, don't rock the boat, try and make everybody happy, and that comes right from my childhood, and I've talked about it before. But it's been a constant, I'm not going to say a battle, but a challenge for me to not slip into that. Because when I do that, I don't serve anybody around me. Most importantly, myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to the challenge that comes up for me, and you'll probably be able to add to it, is it's when I start to say, oh, I don't care, or it doesn't matter, or okay, right? When there's tough decisions to make, you know, in our life or business, and I'll just say, oh, it doesn't matter, or it's okay, right? Which isn't an answer at all.
Yeah, so oftentimes I'll find, again, when you're in that place where you're not really grounded, or you're, and again, I'll ask you a pretty straightforward question, but you'll kind of skirt over that question, and you'll answer something that's kind of related, but not really answering the question, and you'll kind of say, well, it's almost like you're trying to second guess what I'm really trying to get at, and you're trying to answer something that you think I'm really asking but not asking, and then I'm like, so then I kind of say, no, I just need you to answer the question that I just asked you, and then you stop and you say, okay, okay.
I realize what I'm doing.
What you're doing, yeah, exactly.
Right, and it comes to number one, I'm aware of it. Right, because sometimes when you're doing it, you're not aware of it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're just going, oh, I don't know what to do, so I resort back to your old ways.
And it used to trigger me a little bit too sometimes when I'd ask a question, I wouldn't get a straight answer, and I'd just like, okay, I guess I'm not getting anything from you. Well, I'll just move forward.
And then
whatever.
You'll do something I don't
yeah,
like.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm triggered.
And then neither one of us are happy what's going on.
But I didn't ask for what I needed.
And so now I just kind of calmly say, okay, she's not grounded in answering the question I asked, so I'll just give her a second, then I'll just ask the question again and say, I just need you to answer this question.
And you're asking me because you
just so I know.
Want to know what's right for me.
Yeah, I do want to know what your opinion is.
And you're honoring me, and then I'm not honoring you with an answer.
And you're not honoring yourself either, right?
Well, truly.
Yeah, so exactly. So, yeah. So that's one we've been working on, and it's been working well.
Yeah,
I think it really has.
Well.
Yeah.
But and we're sharing like the tough stuff, and this is a little one. This one isn't a whopper, but it happens a lot to people who are pleasers. Right?
I'm sure it does, yeah.
And when the little things always become the big things. So you gotta manage the small things to manage the big things. Do you want to do the conscious question?
Sure.
And then I'll go to the tool.
Okay. All right, so our conscious question that Lisa talked about earlier, we're going to share it with you now, is what if my partner is not interested in a growth mindset? So what happens, yes, and so we find this quite often, where one person in the relationship is becoming more aware of themselves, what's going on around them, what's going on in their relationships, and they're starting to explore themselves, they're exploring what's out there, what's new information, taking responsibility for themselves, and again, really wanting to learn and grow and make their life better, make relationships better. And maybe they got a partner that's like, I'm not interested in that, whatever you're doing. So the first thing you need to do is to not judge your partner for not being interested. Okay, if you come at it from a judgmental place, it's like I'm doing this and you're less because you're not doing it or you're not interested in it. That's really just going to push them farther away.
And it's saying I'm right and you're wrong.
Exactly. There's nothing inviting about that. So what you really want to do is be setting this tone of how can I invite my partner to start to look at what I'm learning and how I'm growing and what I'm experiencing, and make it something that is attractive possibly for them to consider. So it's certainly it's probably hasn't been modeled for these, for somebody. They've never been modeled how to have a growth mindset, and so it might be something to be outside of their comfort zone, and not everybody wants to go outside their comfort zone, unless they have a good reason for it. But and some people are really quite content with where their life is at, or they're kind of satisfied, and they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want to risk bringing up stuff that they think it could blow up into something big, right? As opposed to keeping it like stuffed aside. Well, it's going to keep.
Well, it's like brushing it under the rug.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And pretty soon you've got
you're living on this
pile
mound
of crap under your rug, and you're walking around it.
Yeah, exactly. Living with all these unsaid things and unexperienced things. So, so basically, recognize that in most relationships, one person becomes the leader in the situation, and the other one's not. And so sometimes, most often, or in often cases, it's the woman who will end up taking the first steps and starting to explore this kind of stuff, and then they can hopefully invite their husband to take steps in that same direction. Sometimes too, it'll be the less wounded of the two people in a relationship that will be the one that says, I'm willing to step in and do some of this work and see where it goes. Yet sometimes it's possibly the more wounded person, or the person who hits rock bottom for some reason, or goes through a crisis in their life, and one partner's kind of doing okay where they're at, but the other one's kind of going down, and they said, I need to find something. I'm certain now they're searching, and and so they'll come across something that really starts to work or click for them. And again, you want to be able to share it with your partner and be inviting in how you approach them with it, so that it's something that actually is attractive to them in some one way or another. And again, so a lot of those I feel statements, again, like we talked about earlier. So just saying, I learned this about myself. Had these feelings. Yeah, here's what I learned about myself. Here's my stuff, and they might say, "Oh, that's interesting." And so you don't want to be pointing fingers or saying, "Here's something you could do," or "Here's something you should do." Don't do that.
Nope.
It's just say, "Here's what I'm doing, and here's what I'm gaining from it." And then they might say, "You actually are doing better, and so maybe I'd like to try some of that too, right?"
I'm open to.
Yeah, maybe I'd be open to doing some of that exploration with you. Or you might say, I'm not right now, and you got to let that go.
Well, and I'm going to add to that, our Conscious Quest workshops
Mm-hmm.
are a beautiful, invite them to an event where there's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's at Hudson's Pub.
It's a perfect environment to invite
It's only
us.
discussion. Nobody's ever going to point their finger at anybody and say, well, you're wrong, or you're dense, or you don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Or what's wrong with you?
No, it's really interactive, and it's a lot of fun. And the awareness happens sort of organically.
Mm-hmm. And it's really about getting just to the first step of this. It's all about gaining awareness, mainly about yourself, but also about seeing other people's perspectives as well. Because a lot of people, it's pretty. I know for myself, you get into this place where you've got this mindset and you see the world in a certain way, and then you start watching other people answer questions in a totally different way, and you think, well, they're so different from me, but there's reasons for it, and you get to hear how they feel about it and why they feel differently about it, and it's great to get other people's perspectives.
It's a lot of fun, and people end up leaving just laughing. That is such a good time.
Yeah, very fun, very safe atmosphere.
All right, our last thing is our Conscious Toolkit. And we picked this one because we're going to talk about affirmations, and it even can answer some of the question about, if your partner isn't willing to embrace the growth mindset, it can kind of feel crappy, and you can say, well, he's never going to change, or I'm stuck, or this is no fun, now I don't know what to do. And we have to remember that an affirmation is an affirmation whether it's positive or negative. So if you're using words like that, it's an affirmation. He's never going to change does not change the energy.
It does not invite change in a positive way.
It's sort of there's two ends of everything. It's the having and not having, right? And if you only say, I don't have this, an affirmation would be, I'm always broke. That doesn't bring abundance into your life. It brings less money and less prosperity. You have to say, I have an abundant life, and I'm a money magnet, and I'm waiting for more opportunities around the corner to make more money. Right? That's an affirmation that's going to bring the positive things into your life. So.
Or saying, oh, I don't want to get sick. I'm gonna make sure I don't get sick this weekend.
Yeah.
You don't want to be using the word sick. You want to say, I'm going to stay healthy and vibrant this weekend.
Right.
I'm going to maintain my health.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's believing in the possibility of what you can create in your life. And you shift it and you switch it. And so when you catch yourself doing it, just know that you can override it. You can override any negative thing by just saying, oh, like it happens all the time. And I wrote down some that I heard last week. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. It's like, right? Can you switch that and say, I can do hard things? I say, have you done a hard thing before? They're like, yeah. Well, then you can do hard things. So let that be your affirmation instead of, I don't know if I can do that. This is so hard, right? You can do hard things. Like, you got to switch it. Or I'm not smart enough. Or you can switch that. My mind is clear. I know what I need. I know what I need to learn or do to be successful. Or I got this. Or saying my brain is supercharged and ready to go.
yeah. Or I move through challenges with grace and ease.
Right.
And then these challenges don't become these big obstacles that you're not capable of getting through. They're just something that you move through with grace and ease.
And one thing that we do is we have affirmation cards that we read every day, right? And then I'm just going to share one. We have an extraordinary marriage. We just declare that as our truth every day. And we just let the rest play out. All right, so if anybody has any questions about how to change the affirmations from a negative to a positive, we're pretty darn good at it. So just go ahead and ask.
Yeah. All right, we pretty much covered everything? All right, and our time is winding down. So once again, we are LifeWorks International. We have a holistic health and wellness clinic here in Lethbridge, Alberta. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We have email, info@lifeworksinternational.ca. We already mentioned the workshop. The next workshop coming up is another Conscious Quest event here in Lethbridge at Hudson's Pub. It's a week from Thursday, June 23rd at 6:15. There's a little separate room there at Hudson's. You'll find us there. And we'll be talking about emotional connections. So it'll be another great topic. And because, again, in relationship and partnerships, having good boundaries around your emotional connections and having knowledge of emotional connections, very important.
And tomorrow night is Wellness Wednesday. We've got the great Dina Lee coming in with doTERRA essential oils, and she's going to be sharing some of her knowledge about the essential oils and how they can improve your life. And then, of course, we're licensed international workshop teachers and instructors. We work with singles, couples, corporate, and people hire us when they're tired of the struggle and they're ready to do what it takes to make their life work. And I picked a quote of the day.
Great.
I thought it fit in for today. The wound is not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility.
Again, taking responsibility for yourself and where you're at. Okay, once you become fearless, life becomes limitless. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.